Hey guys, welcome. 2.2 video and head it 2.2 conditional statements. Today we are going to recognize conditional statements and their parts. We're going to write converse, inverse, contrapositives of our conditionals. And this is fun stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first part, write all that. Okay, so a conditional is an if-then statement. So conditional means it has to require and meet a condition for it to be true. So if this is true, then this will be true. That's why it's a conditional. It's conditional on the if. There's two parts. The hypothesis, so if something I believe to be true, then we get the conclusion, the second part. Okay? So P then Q is how we read this. If P then Q, or P implies Q, I'm going to be using this most of the time, but make sure you write all this out. So a conditional is about the hypothesis leading to the conclusion. If the hypothesis is true, then the conclusion is true. Okay, and this is our conditional statement. Let's move forward to our next piece. Truth value. Let's go ahead and write this vocab down. This is a very simple one. The truth value of a conditional is either true or false. Not all the time do we get a truth value to be true for a conditional. Sometimes they are not true. So I could say, if it's raining outside, then you live in North Dakota. That is not a true conditional. It is conditional, but it is not true because it could be raining in Seattle, and you're not in North Dakota. You're in New Mexico. Just kidding. Seattle is not in New Mexico. We all know it's in Oregon. All right, moving on. I'm just kidding. It's in Washington. Okay. We also have this thing called the negation of a statement. So you're going to write this down. It's the opposite of the statement. So we just can write that. But it says the symbol. Let's write the second sentence too. That's pretty nice. The symbol is. I like to say this is P not, or not P, and is red, not P. So we could say the sky is blue, the sky is not blue. That would be the negation of it, okay? And let's move on down. So make sure you write that. Oh, look at the words come with us, that's fun. Erase. All right, yes, you are writing this whole box right here. So a conditional statement, a standard statement is if then, so given the hypothesis, then the conclusion is true, P then Q. Okay? You don't need to write this box here. So if you could just do how to write it, symbol, how I read it. That would be fine. The examples are, we'll get to examples. Converse, you exchange the hypothesis and the conclusion so they flip spots. The inverse negates them, and the contrapositive flips them and negates them. So I'm going to teach you something real quick. So see my little hands right here? Okay. So this is going to be the conditional. So if P, then Q. The converse would go ahead and flip the P and the Q. So if P, then Q, the converse would flip them. If P, then Q, we would negate both of them. Negate. They don't flip. So we negate the P, we negate the Q. And then the last one, the contrapositive, not only takes the P and Q, flips them, but it also negates them. Okay? We're going to play a little game in class with that. So look forward to it. All right. Moving on. Okay. Let's go ahead and write this piece down. Below are the truth values of the related statements above. Equivalent statements have the same truth value. So let's go ahead and write this down. Let's talk about these. So conditional. If A equals 15, then A is acute. So that is a conditional statement, and guess what? It is true, right? Because 15 is an acute. So we have if 15, then acute. All right? So we got the 15, and then it's like an acute angle. The converse flips them and says if acute, then it's 15. Well, that's not true because an acute angle could also be 14 degrees or 89 degrees or 10 degrees, as long as it's less than 90. So this would not be a true statement. Okay? Inverse. If A does not equal 15, then A is not acute. Well, that's also not true, because if you think about it, well, if A is not 15, A could be 14 degrees, which is acute. So that's not true. And then contrapositive. Okay, we flip it and negate. If A is non-acute, then A cannot equal 15. That's true, because if A is a 90 degree or an obtuse angle, then it has to be bigger than 90, which means it can't be 15, so that would be true. A conditional and its contrapositive are equivalent statements. They are either both true or both false. Okay? The converse and the inverse of a statement are also equivalent statements. This here is gold. Okay? This here is good as gold. Because if the conditional and the contrapositive, so if the conditional is true, the contrapositive is true. If the conditional is false, the contrapositive is false. Every time. Same with the converse and the inverse. The converse works, the inverse will work. If the converse doesn't work, the inverse will not work. They are equivalent statements. They have the same truth value. Okay? So, I just want to chat about those today. We're going to do a lot of examples in class. I think these are a little easier done in class than watching a video of me doing them. So we took a little bit more time with the vocab today, but that is it. I leave you with this one thought. Okay? If you're in Mr. Smith's first period class, then you are in geometry. True or